Cool. So we are now recording. So ladies, it's nice to say that. Ladies, welcome. It does feel like a while since we've seen. If anybody else comes in, I will let them in.
Perfect.
Please use the chat box as we go through. If there's anything that's coming up, because tonight's session, we are talking all about mindset and staying on track. Because we know that, you know, we've had a beautiful, glorious summer. We've had lots of stuff going on. Children have perhaps gone back to school. We may have gone away for the summer. We may have done some stuff. And I don't know about you, but sitting here in Ainsdale tonight, it's going dark now, and that is not my most favourite thing about this time of year, to be fair. So we've got lots of things happening. So the propensity is that, you know, these changes and things, we can allow them to kind of knock us. So we're going to spend about the next 40 minutes, an hour, talking about mindset, talking about staying on track, talking about some of the tools that you can use to make sure that the goals that you are setting yourself, you have got much more chance of success with some of the adjustments that you can do and how we can stay on track, some of the little habit hacks we can throw in as well. So if there are any questions, throw them in. I mean, we'll stop at the end for Q&A when we would do that anyway. But as usual, I am going to share a presentation, and we're going to whiz through that. Well, we're not going to whiz, we're going to go through that. There may be things in here that you will look and go, yeah, I know that. And I make no apology about that, because we're habit machines. We love a little habit. And when we get into our automatic way of thinking, there's certain things that we will do naturally, despite the fact that we know better or we know different, and we will fall into that groove of doing stuff. So this may be a refresher for some of you around mindset stuff. That's fine. Whatever you take, my intention is that there will be, you know, between 3 and 5 things that we cover tonight that you're going to be able to go, yeah, I'm going to implement that. And that's the key, because it's the action that you take from this that's going to make all the difference. Because we can talk till we're blue in the face about what works, what doesn't work. Nothing works unless we do some action. So it's thinking about what you will action or what's actionable for you after this session. So cool. Anything else you wanted to add, Joe, before I crack on?
No, go for it, Judy. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Great stuff. Right, let me share my screen with you all now. Right. Yes, so we should be seeing that screen now. So we are going to talk about our mindset. We are going to talk about some of the things that we've got and making and keeping the things that, whoops, oh, I'm ahead of myself here. The stuff that we've got around mindset. We hear it a lot. We hear about money mindset. We hear about confidence. We hear about it. It's all mindset. Of course it is. And mindset was formed in the 1930s, as it says. It's a habit of mind formed by previous experience. Our minds are, you know, they're just prediction machines. We've done something before. Our mind tends to do this. And I think we talked about sleep last time. But what our mind does is, whenever we're presented with something, it does this thing where it kind of goes, have we done this before? Yeah, what did we do? Oh, we did that. Let's do that then. That's how we work. So we're going to talk about some of those neural pathways and how we create them and stay in the groove of the ones that we want and the ones that are going to help us and the decisions that we've made. And then we're going to talk about staying on track and some of the routines that we can put in there to kind of stay in there. So there may well be a little bit of kind of wiring with switches that we have going on this evening, because we've all got the same kit up here. Unless we've had any kind of psychological or neurological down, we've all pretty much got the same kit, but we can be wired quite differently based on experiences, decisions, history, that kind of stuff. So it's worth understanding. And the greatest analogy I've got for this is a tree, because we are like trees, although we're not stuck in soil and we're not kind of in that, we are like trees in this sense. Because if you look at that tree there on the left-hand side, you can see at the bottom that right at the bottom, we've got the soil, we've got all of that, and the roots of the tree. This is our conditioning. If we think about the soil as around our conditioning, so the conditioning that we have around all the things that we do, think or say, and stuff that's happened to us, the beliefs that we have are the roots. So they're the roots that kind of hold us up. So our beliefs, and we know we can change beliefs, we know all of this, but they are the things that are holding us. Then we have the trunk of the tree, which we can see is our attitude. So when we think about the attitude to how we feel, how we act, the certain things that we do, and that attitude is absolutely going to impact the way we, as it goes off and the branches become leaves and stuff, that's our behavior, that's our performance, they're the skills that we have, the techniques that we get. Us at our very best is about us having those beliefs and that conditioning in the right place, the attitude to follow that, then our behavior and beliefs. That's how we work, that's how we function. Now, when we think about us as a tree, one of the big things to note, and this is why a tree analogy is the best thing, because when you look at that, you will notice that, and I'm putting my hand on the screen, you can't even see that I'm doing that, but if you look at this, the stuff, the beliefs and the conditioning, our beliefs, our conditioning are buried, and that's what we have. People can't see but they can see, or they can feel our attitude. They can certainly see and notice our behavior and our skills and our performance. That's all there's all things that we can visibly notice. Our beliefs and our conditioning are buried, and they're the things that people don't see about us and often don't know about us. Now, that's important because when we can adjust and kind of pull up some of those weeds or cut away some of those roots that are unhelpful for us, that's where our attitude change, that's where our beliefs will change. And this is where we can see how it will affect us and how we can start to kind of try on new beliefs and start to form different pathways around, because if we believe we can, we probably will. If we believe we can't, we probably won't even try. And there's a great story. I always talk about the story when I talk about this tree. It's many, many years old, and you may have heard about the story about a guy called Cliff Young. Cliff Young was an Australian potato farmer, and Cliff Young had acres and acres of land, and he used to run across his farm daily to tend to the farm. That's what he did. It was in Australia, and in Australia they have a kind of it's like an when I say ultra marathon, it's more than an ultra marathon. They go from one end to the other. It's huge. It takes about a week, and it's this thing. Cliff Young decided to enter that because he runs around his acres of land every single day and thought, I can have a go at that. Cliff Young pitched up at the race. There's loads of professional runners, professional ultra runners there, all in their ASICs, all in their kit. Cliff Young pitches up in a pair of dungarees and a pair of wellies. And they're like kind of, oh gosh, what's he doing here? And then when they started off, Cliff Young kind of shuffled a bit because that's how he run. He wasn't a professional runner, he didn't know. And he shuffled off. Now, there was a little bit of sniggering and laughing. Oh my God, what's this man doing with his little number on running? Cliff Young carried on. Now, this is where it gets interesting around beliefs, because that first night that they cracked on, the professional runners and the people who'd done it all before, they used to have like Winnebagos that followed them around. And then when of an evening they would stop, they'd, shower, have something to eat, recharge, sleep, on what next day, crack on. Nobody told Cliff Young that. So he just carried on, proper Forrest Gump kind of story. He just carried on till he was tired. Then he had a little nap. Then he woke up. Then he carried on again. Now, long story short, Cliff Young, the year he entered, he won that ultra marathon. It's not called that now, but it's this massive big run. He won it. If you Google him, it's in the 80s. It's a long time ago, but he won it. And he was 63 when he won it. Now, the reason I think this is a really interesting story is it's about belief. So Cliff Young believed that he could run up all day and all night if he needed to and be okay with that. The other runners were like, you can't possibly run this far and you have to do this. And so if the next year he run it again, he didn't win it next year. Why didn't he win it next year? Because it's the old story. The following year, nobody had Winnebagos following them. The following year, people did the Cliff Young thing. And he took, I think, something like 40, he took 2 days off the record because he did it differently. That was the belief thing. He believed that he could do that. And it's interesting now, after this week, when we hear about this fabulous, this Emma who's just won tennis, the US Open, I wonder how many now unseeded players will continue to actually do a really great job in any sport, because now there is belief there, because now it can be done. So when we start to adjust the beliefs about ourselves, our attitude changes, our behavior changes. So the things that we can do about belief are really key. But there's two things to understand about beliefs: the belief itself and the implications of that belief. So when I talk about that, it's about thinking the belief itself is often a generalization. Nobody can run for 2 days straight without collapsing, generalization or something. And that implication really has an effect on what we do. So when we can start to look at, I can believe all kinds of things, but they don't have an effect on stuff that I do. But when we can really dig deep and understand where that condition and that belief is, it's really important. And that's going to help us stay on track, meet the things that we want to do. Because when we believe it, whether we think we can or we can't, we're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And remember, we have this kind of prediction machine where our mind goes, have we done that before? Yeah, well, that didn't go very well. Let's avoid it. We've done that before. Yeah, we're great at that. Let's do this. So it's us creating these routes and these pathways that are going to help us. I hope that makes sense. So it's the easiest analogy I can get to kind of talk around it. So when we are thinking about those beliefs that we have, and this is and you'll have heard of this before, about it's not how good you are, it's how good you want to be. So what I mean by this is, we often, with our belief system and those roots, we tend to, and I'm pretty sure you'll have all heard of fixed and growth mindsets. But when we get into that fixed groove where those roots are just so thick and they're just so ingrained, and the conditions around them, we're a little bit trapped in that. Growth mindset is, of course, what we want to have, because the growth mindset is going to allow those roots to get wider and wider, which will then in turn change some of the attitudinal things, and then change performance that we have. But if you or ever, and there's things that we will have, situations we will be in where we will be in fixed mindset, it's recognizing when we are. If you ever, people who are in a fixed mindset believe that their qualities are fixed, there are traits that they have, they can't be changed. If that's just not me, I'll never be able to. That's the kind of language of a fixed mindset. They will document their intelligence or their talents rather than, they don't want to work to develop anything or improve them. They really just believe that they're just a trait. That's it, they've got them. They also believe that talent alone leads to success. If we're in a fixed mindset, we don't think any effort is required. It's just the way we are. But alternatively, when we think of a growth mindset, when you're in growth mindset, you have that underlying belief that any learning or intelligence can grow with time and experience, and any kind of competence that you're going to have will grow. And when we get this, we believe that we can become smarter, we can believe that we can become better at certain things, and we realize that effort is going to have an effect on success. And this is where we talk about the action that we're going to have that's going to impact that higher achievement. So fixed and growth mindset, really important to get yourself into a growth mindset and start to build that pathway of being growth. I was listening to a podcast a while ago, and anybody who follows Strictly will know Kevin Clifton, who was one of the professionals on Strictly. He was in a very fixed mindset for a long time. He was a world champion. He was fantastic. He'd done lots of shows. He was on Burn the Floor, and but when he went to these, he openly admits and talks about when he understood this, he was very much around, well, of course they should offer me this because I'm the best at this. And when he didn't get offered or he didn't get things, there was no question for him around, well, what can I do differently? Where's the growth? It was very much around, well, how dare they? I'm just, they've clearly missed a trick, and I'll go and find somebody else who'll know my talents, that kind of thing. It wasn't until he started to explore things around his own growth around mindset that he started to recognize that he was pretty much just an absolute div, really, the way he was behaving in that situation. So when we are thinking about staying on track for things, and when we are thinking about our mindset, it's absolutely key that we understand that thinking about the limit that we put on ourselves, and understanding that growth mindset is what is absolutely going to get us to the next stage, instead of when we have that voice in our head that starts with the whole, well, you can't possibly do that. There's no way you can do that. You're too old. You're very fixed. It's not right. Thinking about the Cliff Young story, that's not, You know, that was a very growth mindset story. So when we think about mindset and throat, when we think about some of the stuff that comes out, I love this because when I work one-to-one with clients, I kind of like it when people say to me, I've got no choice. And I feel like I have to, if I'm face to face, well, if I'm getting face to face, I can touch now. But when I'm on Zoom, I feel like I need to slap them just, you know, virtually. We kind of go, no. We always have choice. The choice that we make is absolutely what is going to take us. So when we think about, and even if these two words are two words that you take away from this session, we always are allowed to choose again. So whenever things happen or whenever situations arise, when we get to choose again, we decide, we choose again. So we can choose the behavior, we can choose the attitude, we can choose the thoughts, we can choose the feelings. It's down to us, it's on us. Now, the key is creating a little pattern break that goes, whoa, why am I doing this? What's the thing that I'm going on here? Do I need to choose again? Can I choose again? Because instead of why is this happening to me, it's why is this happening for me? What's the choice I'm going to make here? And some of the things that we can have that whole, I said to a client the other day on the phone, well, that's interesting. Why did you choose that way of thinking? And she literally just was frozen, was like, I chose that. And I'm like, yeah, of course you did. You chose that way of thinking. You chose that thought and feeling that then dictated your behavior. You chose to say, oh, I'm going to feel quite miserable. I'm choosing to bury my head in the fridge tonight and not kind of stick with the eating regime I've got. I'm choosing to sit and watch Netflix instead of getting my ass in the gym and doing stuff. It's absolute choice. Choose again. We always get a choice. Choose again. And when we think about where we're operating from right now, will that choice from where you are now, will that choice, where will it get you in 3, 6, 12 months time? Because that choice is going to be the catalyst. That choice can be the little bit of conditioning that's going to change the route. So when we think about it, what choices do you have? There's always choice. You can choose again. And I love just those two words, choose again. You get a choice. And then even if that choice isn't what you want, choose again. This is what we have. It's our choice. We have got this choice to make. And the more we start to do this, our mindsets, as we've said, as it says here, is for most of us, our mindsets have been created for us. Created from an early age, we know this, our conditioning, our beliefs, depending on where we were brought up in the world, how we were brought up, who our main primary caregivers were, experiences, our mindset is being formed for us, whether through teachers, parents, all of those things. And we absorb a lot. And the more habitual, the stronger that neural pathway. So when we think about neural pathways, we can think about those roots and that conditioning. This is what we're talking about. And we have very little, because if we think about it, the kind of imprint years that we know we have up to about the age of 7 or 8, we don't have any other form of reference. So as you know, what your mind tends to do is go, have we done this before? Did that work? No. When we've got a clean sheet that we don't have those form of reference, it's quite hard. So we tend to just take the things on, because let's think about it. For those of you who've got children, if we think about children, none of us would be walking if we were using this prediction machine and this confidence stuff, because when we took a few steps and we fell down and people started laughing and going, oh, if we had a reference, we would go, well, we're not going to do that again. I'm not going to try and stand up and walk again now because everyone starts laughing. We wouldn't do that. We don't have that reference. So these neural pathways, when we think about when we've got no point of reference, we're eagerly accepting things in. So that's where our mindset have been kind of formed for us. And then what we notice is we can become quite deeply rooted. So that's not to say that we can't pull those roots up, because some of the mindsets or some of the beliefs that we've had created for us, they're ours to take away. We may have taken beliefs off somebody and kind of adopted them as our own. I can give you a perfect example of this. Me, as my parents, fabulous people, thought I was, could do anything. They were brilliant, encouraged me to do all kinds of things, which was fabulous for me. I worked, as I said to you, I think last time, I worked in a corporate world for years and years and years and loved it. And I had a really successful corporate career. Then I decided to do what I love and the stuff that I've read is, and I started doing this. My dad still now is waiting for me to find a job, and will say things like, are you going to get a job? And I'm like, I've got one. This is what I do. But my dad's belief is you can't possibly be successful if you don't work for somebody else. That's his belief. And I carried that for a long time. I bought it off him and I carried it with me for a very long time. And I've now given him that belief back because I don't need it. But it's that kind of thing. There's some of the beliefs that we have that we can notice are from parents, caregiver, friends, teachers, that kind of stuff. We have a lot of it with teachers. We take that belief and we go, we make it our own. Thank you. And we will carry on. And then first we make our beliefs, and then our beliefs make us, because we just start to prove it right. And we start to form that root. So for us, it's a bit of work that goes, whose is that belief? Whose is the belief that tells me and then you can fill in your own blank to that. Is that mine? Is that somebody else's that's kind of I've taken with me? Have I got proof around that belief? I don't know. So we know that there's loads of research around neurology, around physics, psychology, all of those things that show us that our mindset is formed by a combination of habitual thoughts and the corresponding images and emotions that they elicit. So it's the corresponding thoughts and those emotions that attach that we can actually do it. But more importantly, it appears that once your thoughts and your emotions have become habitual, they form that network. They form that neural network that keeps you in that habitual place, keeping you literally on automatic. We spend 46.9% of our day in automatic thinking. The same thoughts that we had the day before, the same thoughts we had the day before, the same thoughts we had the day before. Those of you who drive, you will, I'm pretty confident, have got to places and kind of got there and gone, which way did I come? I can't remember. Automatic thought takes us, and automatic thought is brilliant because it speeds things up. However, when we want to change stuff, when we want to stay on track, when we want to get out of a groove that we've been in, we absolutely need to recognize that that we can get more deliberate with our thinking. And we can recognize that when we are on automatic pilot that goes, oh, it's 8 o'clock. I have a tub of Haagen-Dazs right now. Oh, no, we can break that pattern. That's just automatic thinking because we've had it formed for us. I hope this makes sense. So when our automatic thought kicks in, we can break that pattern. And when we break the pattern, we can start to give ourselves different routes and we can start to adjust that belief and thinking stuff. So when we think that those things that we've got going on in our thoughts, really, really true, that we are, when we think, who is the thinker of our thoughts? Us. Of course it's us. We're in charge. How often do you feel in charge of your thoughts though? Probably not very, because they're automatic. They come, we act, move on. When we interrupt and we kind of go, is this helpful? Is this thinking helpful? Because we are in charge, but feasting on a diet of negativity, despair, woe is me, I can't do that. These are the thoughts and then when we make them automatic, they just get logged in our automatic, which is half of our time, and then we just repeat the pattern. So when we interrupt that and go, woof, we just need to balance that with some of the patterns that we can then start to go, that's not a thought I want to have. And when we embark on any kind of new program or anything that any improvement, if we're self-improvement, personal improvement, physical improvement, any of these things, we do remember we love what is familiar to us because it's in automatic. And that's why sometimes when we are doing something that's different, our mind says to us, this is rubbish. It's not familiar. I don't know what you're doing. This is very new to me. So get back to where you're familiar. Get back into the automatic thinking groove because that's safe, because it's kept you alive so long, because that's your mind's job, keeping you alive, keeping you safe. That thinking is safe. That behavior is safe. Get over there again. Even if that behavior of eating takeaways every single night is, rubbish and it's making you feel, your mind is never, ever going to think, oh my God, this is unhealthy. No, that's your job. Your mind is going to want to keep you safe and push you into that automatic thinking because you've done it before. We are prediction machines. This is what we've done before. Please stay safe and go into there. But then you have the choice to go, I'm going to choose again here because I'm the thinker of my thoughts. I can change the way I think about it. I can change that. I no longer need to hide away on social media. I no longer need to, drink 6 bottles of wine a week. I no longer need to do these things because I can break the pattern. I'm the thinker of my thoughts. Everything that happens is on us. We're the one that makes the choice to do things. We choose again, we can change our thinking. So when we think about that, the other thing that I hope that's helpful around some of the stuff that we've got going on mindset wise, because mindset is huge. As we've said, mindset is just those pattern things that we have. And when we think we can all change our mindset, we absolutely can. We can work on it as a ongoing thing. One of the things that we love a little system and we love how this works. So whenever we are talking about any changes to what we want to do, be, or have, all our behavior change starts with awareness. Absolutely. So when we become self-aware about something, when we become, like you guys you're self-aware about changing something around your fitness and your health levels and that kind of stuff, it's all about that awareness. Now, behavior change, true behavior change is an identity change. Because when we talk, the word identity in Latin, sorry, I'm hesitating here. I want to get my facts right. I'm sure it's Latin. Identity in Latin means repeated beingness. Pretty sure, yeah, it is. It's identity. Repeated beingness. So it's what you repeatedly do. That's your identity. So if you are somebody who, I consider myself somebody who, I go to the gym. I've worked out since I was 18 regularly. It's part of my identity. So for me, when I don't do, or I don't have an opportunity, that jars with me a little bit because it's out of my automatic thinking, if that makes sense. So it's part of my identity. So when we change behaviors, true behavior change is an identity change. So when if anybody's done any habit work, you'll recognize this. The goal, maybe if you wanted to go and do a run, a 10K run or a half marathon, the goal is not to do a 10K run, it's to become a runner. It's an identity statement. That's you being it's that kind of stuff. So when you can have the change of identity, it's all about the systems that you create that will allow you to do it, the systems that you create that are going to reward you for this. So when you follow goals that are good for setting direction, the system that you design is the thing that's going to absolutely get you the results that you want. So as we've said here, once you believe a particular aspect of your identity, you're much more likely to act in alignment with that. So anybody here whose identity is any kind of, so if there's any vegetarians, vegans, pescatarians, that kind of stuff, that's part of your identity. That's an identity statement. So you will align to that belief. And then this is why improvements are only temporary until they become who we are. They become part of our identity. So if we use that analogy, the example of a vegetarian, they will become permanent. Those changes would become permanent because they could become part of your identity, and you wouldn't even consider ordering a burger or that kind of stuff. So your system that you use is really important. And when you think about, when you've repeated a story to yourself, it's easy to slide into some of the mental grooves that you have. So think about, and you can do this both ways. You can think about your identity statements that support your plans and goals for life. Some of the identity statements that you can say, you know what, I am somebody who absolutely considers health and fitness and good nutrition part of, that's what I do. It's just what I do. And then there's some part of you that would go, oh, I'm not a person, I don't really like a lot of cardio. Massive identity statement, you're going to come away from that. You know, it's not something exercise just doesn't do a lot for me. It's going to move you away. Or people who are, you know, if we use other examples of, again, if I think about my father, you know, oh, I need to work for somebody. I need somebody telling me what to do. Identity, most definitely. So becoming the best version of you requires you to continually edit these beliefs and upgrade and expand your thinking, and your identity comes with that. So good habits are going to make absolute sense to you, but if they conflict with your identity, you'll fail to put them in action, because the best version of you absolutely needs you to edit the beliefs in line with the new identity that you have. And then when you get proof of it, you increase the frequency of some of the stuff that you're doing. That makes sense. So think about your identity statements. Repeated beingness, that's all it means around identity. You can do, be, or have whatever. And if you currently haven't, choose again. This is how we choose the thoughts again. Because those are the things that are going to make the difference around you staying on track towards your goals. Because things like, and this is the thing, we love loops, our systems, we love loops as humans. And for any of you who have ever done anything, I'm going to have to be careful here because some of my beliefs are going to come raging to the top here, which it doesn't matter. I make no bones about it. But anybody who's done any kind of diety, I hate the word diet as well. I just can't stand that. Diet is just food. It's not a restrictive thing. Diet is what we eat. But when people are kind of putting themselves on a diet, okay, so that message to your mind goes, okay, we are on something, so we need to come off it. So you're going to come off it. That's how it happens. When you have a lifestyle difference, when you become, it becomes part of your identity that you eat healthily, that you eat things that fuel you. That's different. That's not you being on a diet or eating diet food. As my mother's been a perpetual diet her entire life. And she will say things like, when she sees some things I have for dinner and she goes, is that what you're having? Why are you eating diet food is what she will use. That's the language she'll use. And I'll be like, it's really not, it's just balanced and it's fine. So the other thing, so don't put ourselves on a health kick, because guess what? You're going to come off it. Your mind will, that's what it allows you to do. It's a loop system. Other thing to consider as well around stuff is, and I love this, you know, when people set themselves goals to lose weight, when in any of in the lives that you've had so far and the ages that you have, when have you ever been rewarded for loss? We don't. We do not reward loss. As a human, we would not reward loss. So when we say we want to lose something, we are already setting ourselves up to not want to do it. When we consider what we will gain from the things that we're thinking about, so when we consider getting into shape, or whether we consider being healthier, or whether we consider some of the stuff we want to do, we're actually we're collaborating better with our own head to make stuff happen. This is it. It's absolutely what you will gain. It's not about losing stuff, because we're not rewarded, so our mind will not want to do it. So think about your systems being strong. So that behavior change, if you're going to start a behavior change, you've also got to be thinking about the language. Our mind is always going to respond to the words that we say, pictures that we make. So if we're having that language around, oh, you know, and I need to change the way I eat, you know, it's, you know, I'm rubbish at it because I really love my little takeaways on a Friday. All of these statements, you've got to really catch your language, really catch it, because this behavior change is an identity change. You've got to change the thinking that you have behind it. And we can collaborate so much better with our mind when we just think about the words that we're using. So when we think about the stuff that we want to change and the stuff that we are talking about, staying on track is key, because that's how we make it a habit. That's how we make it something that we're going to continue to do, and something that we can absolutely, you know, feel what we're doing. So when we think about it, there's lots of little tips and tricks which you've probably heard of before. But this is where we can collaborate better with our own mind about stuff. So when we talk about, I've got the cup stacked there. So when we think about habit stacking, you will probably already do this. You stack all the things. So when we talk about changing, keeping on track with some of the habits or behaviors that we want to change, we stack them in with stuff that we do. So stacking is based on when we do the next thing or action based on what we've just finished doing. Perfect example is we go to the bathroom, we wash our hands. That's a habit stack. Those two things stay together. We wash and dry our hands after we've been to the bathroom. It's in there. So the actions don't happen in isolation. The bathroom is the cue that causes the trigger for the next behavior. So it could be that I've got a client at the moment who's fabulous, who comes home from work. As she walks through the door, she's got an exercise bike that she's going to, and she does some time on the bike. So she's got a real stack around the action of her walking through the door, taking her shoes off. There's a stack that goes, this is what happens. So think about, for you, the things that you want to stay on track with, the behaviors that you want to change, how you can stack them into your day, stack them into your routine, which really helps, using that kind of and even if you think of, the great thing with stacking is, it's brilliant if you're doing the whole, I do this, then I do this, like we've used the bathroom analogy. Great thing is with stacking, though, you've got to make sure that if it is something that you want to do every single day, but you're going to stack it onto something that you do on a Tuesday, that's never going to work. So it's just getting smart around where you're stacking the stuff. And then also the environmental triggers. Love a little environmental trigger. They are key for us. So visual clues in prominent places that, is going to allow you to be much more likely to hit your goals. And I have loads of visual clues are awesome, because even if you're thinking about, when I wake up in the morning, when I set my table for my day, which, as we talked about when we did the sleep session, I'll go through the things, and I have a post-it note with 3 achievements that I'm going to have today, and they stick on my the corner of my laptop, so that whenever I can find myself wandering away, coming into that automatic thought of distraction, I can drag myself back to that. When during the summer months, if I get up and I go for a run on the beach, as soon as I wake up, the mornings I will be running, my kit will be laying out. We've talked about this, your kit will be laying out. So as soon as you get up, it's an environmental trigger that your mind goes, boom, that's what I'm going to do. But there's other smart things. There are visual triggers that you can have. You can also have digital triggers. So those of you who work and use passwords are brilliant digital triggers. Password are fabulous, because you can change your password to a message that is, if you're trying to stop smoking, quit smoking forever. I don't like to stop. Healthier lifestyle, that kind of stuff. That it's a repeatable message that you are actually taking in. I know somebody who did stop smoking by changing their password, and it was, every single day, every kind of couple of times that they put the password in, it's creating that message, it's creating the route that's changing the belief that's then going to change the attitude and the behaviors and that kind of thing. So the environmental triggers that you can have are brilliant. When you think about anything that you have that you can see, do, or write down that's going to help you get into that's going to keep you on track, dead important. So the stacking, streaking is another one, and I'm not talking about taking your clothes out and running around, but the habit streak that you get in. So the things that you do, that when you set yourself up for a goal or a behavior change, and you are tracking each day that you do it. And once you get into a streak of doing it every single day, you'll get to a point where your mind will be in that place where it goes, you haven't done it today, do it. And you'll be able to do it. So streaking, I know people who kind of don't want to break the streak. I've done 7 days straight of, drinking 3 litres of water. I'm not going to break it. Of course you're not, because you're on a streak when you're telling yourself. There's a great app around tracking that as well, which is, I had a client who wanted to create a streak of walking, I think it was 15,000 steps a day. And then they could see from the little app that was tracking if They just didn't want it to go back. That's brilliant. Thank you, Joe. So yeah, that kind of streaking app is cool for it. So these are the things that are absolutely going to keep you on track for the stuff that you're talking about and the things that the goals that you want to do. But what's important to remember as well is that as our habits and our actions come under the direction of this automatic and subconscious, we can fall into old patterns. We can fall back before we realize what's happening, to be honest. So because there's a lot of deep coding that's going on, so to build in those new habits, we've got to get a handle on our current ones. So we need to realize when we're on the verge of stuff, it's that automatic, it's interrupting that pattern and getting a handle on your current ones. So when you think about some of the habit stacks that you want to create, we have to make them really obvious. And whether they're about exercise, social situations, finances, health, any of these things, we've got to make these really obvious. And those habit cues have got to have that same frequency as the desired habit that you want. So as I've said, if you want to do that habit, it's really, so the environment you're in is super important as well. The environment is that invisible hand that's going to shape our behavior. So when we think about staying on track, it's really important to do. It's the stuff that we want to do. It's the stuff that we're not comparing ourselves to others because they're not you, you're not them. It doesn't matter. We don't really need to think about that. What we need to think about is what works for us, what we want to do. It doesn't matter that somebody else is, doing, is kind of getting in different shape. It doesn't matter that somebody else is running further. It doesn't matter that somebody else is cycling, It doesn't matter. It's not about everyone else. It's about us focusing on our path. And that's the only place that our journey is taking place, on our path. So thinking about, for you, you can look for inspiration and all of that, which is perfect, but comparing with others is a massive waste of time. So whenever you find yourself drifting to that, we're going to pull ourselves back from that by focusing on how far you've come, getting into that growth mindset that goes, I give direction, I'm the thinker of my thoughts. So the direction of my life, you direct your own life. It's down to you. And it's the thinking that you're going to have that's going to change that. So when we're thinking about, so if you think about mindset and where it comes from, the beliefs we have, the stuff that we've got going on that gives us our attitudes and our behaviors, that can sometimes be so automatic that we don't challenge. So when we get into when we want to change our behaviors, we've really got to understand the behaviors that we've got now, what it is that we are changing about them, and then start thinking about identity changes, what it is you want to change on an identity level, that repeated beingness. You're not messing about here, you're getting out of the groove that you're in and moving on to the other groove. And to maintain focus, you can throw in those little habit cues, the stacking, streaking, those environmental triggers. Those things are going to absolutely allow you to stay on track, most definitely, because the more you do it, the more it becomes automatic. And then it's just part of your familiar thing. And our mind loves what's familiar, loves it. And it will always work to keep us familiar and away from unfamiliar. But when we make any kind of changes, we're only making the unfamiliar more familiar. So the unfamiliar for some of us may well be, going to the gym, working out 6 a.m. every morning. That may be very unfamiliar. When we've done it, it becomes familiar. And then and even if we think about the last 18 months, so the last 18 months, it was very unfamiliar for us to work from home, some of us, very unfamiliar. So it felt very awkward and it felt very strange. Right now, it's become very familiar that going back into the office or going back out into the world, that's now the unfamiliar. We've done a complete change. So when we recognize that we can do that, we can do it with anything. We just make what we want, which is the unfamiliar, we make it more familiar. And then, hey presto, our mind goes, yes, we like this, it's safe, thanks very much, we'll keep it. So thinking about yourselves, think about some of the beliefs that you can to make sure that you're at your best and that you achieve the things that you want to achieve. Remember, you are the expert on you. There is only you. Nobody knows you better than you. People may tell you that they do. Oh, I know you. You're the expert on you. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. None of us do. you've all got everything that you currently need here to succeed. There's a great NLP presupposition that tells us possible in the world is possible for me. Someone else can do it, I can do it, because we've all got the same kit, it's just we're wired differently. We have a different repeated beingness, we have a different set of conditioning, beliefs maybe, same as everybody else. Anything that we want to do, we can break it down, of course we can. We can always change, choose again. If something we're doing isn't working, choose again. No such thing as failure, it's all feedback. It only tells us what doesn't work, that's all failure is. And when we consider that right now is the only thing that's real, right now, because that's gone, hasn't happened, that's gone, that hasn't happened. So right now is the only thing that we can do to create the future that we want. So it's about thinking about the now. And this is where to stay on track, it's about making that decision that goes, oh, I won't do that tomorrow. I'll put the steps in now. This is what I need to do now. Because again, you are the expert on you. You're the ones. So think about some of the points that we've put. Think about choosing your experience. You have that choice. You know how you're going to do. Remind yourself who's in charge. You're the thinker of your thoughts. You get choice. Your thoughts, habits and behaviors will affect how you think, what you feel and what you do every single day of the week. So make those thoughts, feelings and absolutely work for you and what you want to do. Get stacking, get some environmental triggers in there. Continue to, remind yourself of the things that you've already done. This is great. You've come this far. You've done loads of stuff. And when it's really key to explore some of those beliefs and conditioning, because a lot of it can be quite hidden for us. So it's important to kind of catch yourself whenever you use kind of words like when you're using a statement and then you think about something that you can't do, and then you use the word because there's a belief coming after that, most definitely. And just remember, when you change how you think, you change your life. It's all about how you think about stuff, what you think is possible for you. And possible in the world is possible for you. That it is. That may sound a little bit trite, but it is so true. That's the only thing that we know to be true about everything that we do. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a challenge, which I normally do on these sessions. So for the next 24 hours, this is one of my favorite ones. I'd like you to go 24 hours without complaining. Now, the reason I do this is because we often drift into what's wrong and what's not working, and we're naturally, because to survive, we need to notice more of what's wrong and what's not working and where we need to do stuff. That was when we were wandering around and there was danger in every corner. We can get a bit smarter about that now. Notice when we get pulled to vent, and we're going to interrupt that pattern, because complaining is expressing distress about something you cannot control and it won't help. So think about when we stop ourselves complaining about stuff, we'll get much more into growth thinking. It's a tough one because what time is it right now? So it is now 2025. So I'm challenging you to 2025 tomorrow. So 8:25 tomorrow night to go without complaining. I'd love to offer a prize for someone who comes back to me and goes, yes, I did it, because I don't think I've ever had anyone. I've had somebody who lasted 14 minutes. So, if you beat 14 minutes, you're doing well. But yeah, it's the point of this is to get you recognizing your thinking. When you recognize your thinking, you can start to get a little bit more deliberate and you can move yourself out of automatic pilot. So I invite you to have a little go at that challenge. Move yourself to don't think about what's wrong, start thinking about what you can do about stuff. And even if you go, stop it, it just gets you a little bit more interest thinking about those pathways and that conditioning that we've got. It's a tricky one, but I'd love you to do it. So I hope that was useful. I'm going to stop sharing in a second. If anybody wants any more, my details are on the screen. If you want to be on the, let me know if you want to get onto the email list, because I send an email every Monday just with some thoughts and thinking around mindset and different subjects as we go on. But happy to have you on that. But I truly hope that was useful. We'll stop sharing, then we can open it up for any questions anybody has. Here we are.
Thanks, Judy. That was really good. Really enjoyed that. If you like Ladies, if you'd like to have a little game with yourself, Momentum app is really good. I've used it before. It's just a really simple tick or an X. It's just a little app that's available on iPhone and Android. So, but yeah, any questions for Judy? Andy, can you normally got a question? Or Laura?
I knew you were going to ask me. No, yeah, obviously you have too much to say all the time.
No.
I think it's a really interesting observation, really, that obviously what you believe drives how you actually succeed in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's easy to think, oh, well, I'll never do that if it's in a work situation or whatever. And then obviously you fall into that.
Yeah.
And you don't achieve things. So I think it is very much around framing your mind to always think positively. But that challenge you came up with, I don't think I'm going to last longer than that.
Already?
Oh dear, yes.
You said it already.
I failed it already. How long was that?
You're going to win. Yeah, you just had 3 minutes.
I'm going to mute. I've had enough.
Brilliant. Any other comments or thoughts?
Laura's on mute. She's like, no, I'm not going to speak. Michelle, did you do that?
I really like that. That was so helpful. I like, what's like change again, or think,
Choose again.
Choose again.
Choose again.
Choose again. And it just makes sense. Yeah.
We just don't do it because we go down that little pathway that goes, this is what I'm going to do. And then before we know it, we're actioning things. But yeah, it's choose again. We get a choice.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Henry Ford. Yes, that's right.
Makes sense.
Good.
Really enjoyed that.
Cool.
Laura, any comments? Lovely. No. You got the light? No, light's on you. Turn my light off. Awesome, fantastic. Right, really enjoyed that, Judy. I will. If you could send me over the sound as well as the video.
Yes. Yeah.
Upload it as a podcast, ladies, for those that want to listen again on a walk or yeah.